Welcome to Grapes and Debates, a podcast where we'll uncork some incredible wine and debate varietals of issues within the restaurant industry, one glass at a time. And now, your hosts and owners of SoNapa Grille, Adam Barringer, Chris Botting, and Joe Bates.
100 episodes.
Here we are.
100 episodes.
Triple
Where's
digits.
Chris? Skiing in Park City.
Yeah. He wanted to be here.
He did. He
It was
really
either a
wanted to be here.
podcast with us or ski Park
Yeah,
City, Utah.
But 100
Yeah.
episodes. This is
Yeah,
pretty big.
that's big.
In the podcast world, 5% of all podcasts make it 100 episodes.
Wow.
Do you know why?
Boredom. I don't.
Yes. Yeah. Boredom.
I
A
don't
lot
know.
of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of
editing.
work. Yeah. Well, this is going to be a special one.
Special.
Yeah. Excited.
Adam Barringer, founder, SoNapa Grille, with my business partner, Joe Bates.
Hey, everybody.
We have
And
Olav
Goelet.
Goelet.
From
And you might
Clos
be
du Val.
wondering, who is Olav Goelet? And this is third generation. Do I
Yeah.
have that right?
Yeah.
Third generation.
Third generation ownership of Clos du Val winery. And why is that so special? Because this is the year we're celebrating the 50th anniversary Judgment of Paris, and Clos du Val was one of the 6 Cabernets that were selected from Napa Valley by the British wine merchant Stephen Spurrier to take to the Judgment of Paris and to compete with the Bordeaux's. That was the first judgment, and then the second judgment 10 years later, Clos du Val won the #1 wine.
We did.
Pretty cool.
Some really cool accolades and cool history, and your history is pretty awesome. Before we start getting into that, we got to get some wine in our glasses. We always start with grapes and then go into
It's
debates.
grapes and debates. So we need to start with grapes.
We got to do grapes.
Yeah.
So what do we have here?
What'd you bring us?
So we have 3 wines, a Sauvignon Blanc,
Right?
a Cabernet Sauvignon, and then a proprietary red blend.
Awesome. Well, let's start with this, the Clos du Val
Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauv Blanc. We currently are featuring the Clos du Val Sauv Blanc and the Clos du Val Cabernet for our wine club wines. And this is some of the wines that our wine club
And feedback has been great so far.
are enjoying.
They're-
Positive feedback is always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're featuring these also by the glass and by the bottle in all 3 of our locations.
So as you're very kindly opening that for us, I like your approach. Start, wet the palate,
Yeah.
soften things up a little bit, and then get going. Probably one of the many reasons why this is number 100 for you guys.
Yes.
It's
So all of our-
dedication. Dedication to our
That was,
craft.
you don't have to drink all of that.
I appreciate
I
that.
don't know what I was thinking.
You thought that was my glass?
I
So-
did.
As you're pouring, I'll just say all of these wines you'll find are blended expressions. So although it's a Sauvignon Blanc as its prominent varietal, this wine is also supported with some Semillon,
Okay.
and that is really one of the core pillars of the Clos du Val philosophy. Really, from the beginning, was the focus on blended expressions.
Really?
It was something that Bernard Porte, our founding winemaker, and my grandparents, John and Henrietta Goelet, one of the many things that they aligned on early in their relationship and ultimately partnership was the love of blended expressions and what they so commonly found growing up and spending time around Bordeaux. So
Well, this absolutely still screams Sauvignon Blanc on the nose.
it does.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's definitely,
it's not sneaking up on you.
no,
but-
let's see what we get. It's your typical colors of a beautiful Sauv Blanc. What is the year on this? Okay, we got a 2024.
Yeah. Right. Tart. Love. But a little bit of softness from the Semillon.
Yep.
Yeah, but not so much that it takes away that it's still a Sauv Blanc.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
We've had it.
Good morning.
Yeah, good. Yeah, yeah.
We have had it, but
It's
yeah, it's fantastic.
12:39.
I know. It's afternoon somewhere.
It is.
Yeah.
It-
Oh, it's afternoon right here.
Yeah, right here,
Right
Jim.
here. I can see this with some oysters. Do you have any suggestions?
Oh, I do. I do have some suggestions. Okay. Clos du Val, the name comes from is it a French term?
It's a French term. So clos is something that I think you will find quite common from a place like Burgundy.
Okay.
It is essentially the enclosure or the wall or the pocket,
Okay.
varying sort of sub-definitions.
Mm-hmm.
And when Bernard and my grandparents had narrowed in their selection on site to Northern California and ultimately to Napa Valley, he found himself consistently migrating further south in the valley and to the eastern slope, and found this little area that to him felt like this pocket within the valley, which is what we now know as Stag's Leap District. And so as he was standing there, having selected the site and presenting it to my grandfather at the time, he said, "Doesn't this just look like its own little Clos du Val?"
Okay.
So the enclosure.
That's pretty
within the
cool.
valley.
Yeah.
So that's where the origin comes from.
Okay.
And this was 72 or bought it in 71 maybe?
Bought it in 71.
Okay.
So they met in Bordeaux in 1968. My grandfather had grown up in the U.S. His mother was French, of Bordeaux origin. Her family were in the wine merchant and negotiant business dating back to the late 1700s.
Wow.
Her family were, her maiden name was Guettier, so of Barton Guettier, B&G, wine merchants.
Okay.
And anyways, they ended up selling their business in the mid-50s to Seagram's. My grandfather would have been in his mid-20s at the time. He jumped into a couple other ventures in the agricultural space and then came back to wine by the mid-60s and wanted to start a wine project.
So there had to already be vineyards there if 72 was your first vintage.
So there was Dick Stelzner was growing fruit there. Warren Winiarski was also growing
Stag Leap
fruit
Junior.
there in Stag's Leap.
Yep.
And I believe there was one other grower at the time. And I think that helped Bernard build up some validation points in what he saw as the potential. But the interesting thing of that site, and this is also, I think, was very common throughout Napa Valley at the time, it was a very diverse agricultural valley.
Mm-hmm.
So the site that they ended up selecting and purchasing was a combination of prune orchards, walnut orchard, hay. There was a pasture, and I think there was some table grapes that were being grown, but there was no wine grapes at the time.
Right.
Wow.
So first vintage 72, and that goes off to Paris, and
That gets shipped off to Paris
Insane.
2 years later.
yeah,
Yes.
and then wins the rematch a decade later than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So the winemaker, he was from
He was from Bordeaux.
Okay.
His family so his ancestors, prior generations were cognac producers.
Okay.
So I hope I get this right. He's either the 9th or the 10th generation maker in the family, converted from cognac to wine, and that transition point was his father. So the connection that was made in Bordeaux in the 60s when he met my grandfather, Bernard's father at the time had been the régisseur, so the technical director for Lafite Rothschild.
Okay.
And my grandfather's cousin at the time was doing some PR work for Lafite. And the two of them,
That's not bad lineage.
they connected
Yeah.
Right.
John and Bernard together and said, I think here's someone who has a vision, and here's someone who's looking to build a career in wine. He has the technical chops. You guys should connect. I think you both will appreciate each other's love and desire for adventure and curiosity. And I think they were right. They both hit it off quickly. My grandfather said, "When can you start?" And Bernard said, "Start what?" And it became really a 3-year journey to find a site.
And how long was Bernard the winemaker?
Bernard retired in 2006. So
did it go from Bernard to Carmel?
Carmel, no, we had a couple iterations in between.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, we went through a period of time where there wasn't, I would say, a very clear direction. I think it's hard when you've had someone who has stewarded and really been, you know, I call Bernard, he's the soul keeper of Clos du Val. He brought it to life. He created it what it was. And unless there's real intention on thinking about how you connect for the next iteration, a lot of times it can get lost. Yeah. And that's really what happened for us.
Right. So now is that you doing that? Are you the driving force behind it?
I like to say it's a lot of us.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess I'm the tip of the spear.
Right. Somebody has to be.
Someone has to be. And honestly, my first objective when I decided to move to California to take this on was to call Bernard and say, hey, I need you back.
Right.
So he came back, joined as an advisor, helped me recruit for a new winemaker, and helped us get back on our path.
Wow. Okay, so you're 35? How old are you?
36.
36. All right. 36 years old. You're in charge of a winery. What led you to this point? So let's say you're graduating high school. Then what do you do?
Well,
I'm assuming you graduated high school. All right.
I was able to graduate high school.
Okay, you know,
I
good.
was able to
That's
graduate
awesome.
high school, and I did my undergraduate in Colorado, majored in skiing.
Nice.
Minored in international relations and business.
Yeah. Okay.
And at first, I thought I was going to go into foreign service. Did a couple internships in embassies and realized that's not going to be my career path, which was fortunate I did that in college.
Right.
But at the same time, my grandfather, you know, he was a serial entrepreneur, and he had gotten involved in a shellfish project in France in the 60s that he still owned at the time. And he convinced me to go and spend a summer there, practice my French. I was a double major in French and international business. And I became fascinated with the process. It was predominantly a breeding operation and then nursery grow out. And we sell a lot of clam and oyster seed to farmers across France, Italy, and Spain. I spent 10 weeks in a lab growing microalgae and figuring out how to keep the nutrient stock for whether it was the adult oysters we were breeding or the juveniles that we were raising. And said, man, I got to come back and finish the process. I got to get out to the farms.
Right.
So anyways, I decided after my senior year, I was going to go pursue a master's. There's a program in the University of Montpellier in the south of France that is focused on aquaculture production management. It's kind of like a good bureaucratic system in France. There's all kinds of regulations and requirements, and it was a need that someone in the family wanted to pursue if we were going to hold on to this business long term. So I did that, and then I jumped into the shellfish aquaculture industry.
There's a guy actually from New Smyrna Beach. His name is Mike Sullivan. We call him Sully, who was into that and growing seeds for clams and oysters. And now he sells seeds to the University of Florida. And and in the Indian River Lagoon restoration projects, all because of Sully. But yeah, it's a cool industry, man.
Sully's a cool guy.
Yeah.
So then 2018, 2019 rolls around. Like, who called? Did Grandpa call?
No. You know, I've always appreciated my grandparents, and I think it's, it's just it's how they thought and how they showed up. It was never about come join what I'm doing. It was always follow your passions,
right?
Because passion will drive a stronger outcome. And so they had 3 sons. None of their sons got involved in my grandfather's endeavors. They pursued their own interests. But my grandfather always said, if our passions align, great, and if not, no. So what happened? We went through a period where my grandparents were working on estate planning, And so through really about 3 years, they were transitioning assets to future generations, and they decided to skip G2. And so by the end of 2017 into 2018, Clos du Val had transitioned from being essentially singularly owned by John Goelet to being owned by his 6 grandchildren. And we needed to figure out how to be owners.
Right.
And I'd had the benefit of working for a gentleman who'd started the Shellfish Company in Massachusetts, had built it literally from the swamp up, or the marsh up, so to speak. And the power of having an owner operator there with you day in and day out in the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And the leadership that can bring to an organization. And I felt strongly that if we were going to be owning a private company, family owned, we should show up like that. And if we weren't, there would probably be a better steward for this place.
Right.
So,
Are the other 5 brothers and sisters involved
Grandchildren.
at some levels?
Yeah,
His
I'd
brothers
say,
and sisters.
Yeah. Oh,
So I have 2 siblings and 3 first cousins.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Got
it.
To varying
Grandchildren.
degrees. I've had one of my cousins. She actually worked at Clos du Val, I think for 4 years, three to 4 years right out of college, and then her and her husband ended up moving back to the East Coast for his job, and she sat on the board of directors for a few years after that. But then she's got four kids.
Sure.
She's got a lot
Yeah.
on her plate. So today it's myself, and then my sister actually joined us about 3 months ago.
Okay.
Joined our marketing team. So 2 of us that are active, and then 4 that are passive.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the biggest thing for us was, one, can we align on how we want to own together? So governance frameworks. And then from that, how do we want to show up as a group of owners? And we all agreed that we needed someone to come in. We needed to fix some things. I think we all recognized we didn't know exactly what to fix, but
Right.
we needed to figure it out. And we'd have more conviction if someone was willing to spend the time doing that. So I was at an inflection point with my job. I desperately wanted to stay there, but it was time to focus on something that I was now an owner of.
And there had to be a part of you that said, "Man, this is the family legacy." Like,
There
this
is an
there's
element
gotta
of
be
that. There is an element of that. And I think there's an important tension point of ensuring that you maintain the balance of having that sense of commitment while also avoiding emotional charge to lead your thinking.
Right.
You have to remain objective in your thought process.
Well, I would say sitting here and having, I started SoNapa back in 2006, and Joe's been with me for the last 6-7 years. My business partner, who's skiing in Park City right now, has really been a childhood friend, and we've done 100 episodes, but we have been drinking wine from Sonoma and Napa, hence the name SoNapa, since 2006. So 2 decades. And for me, being an outsider looking in, I would say you have an iconic brand. You are located in one of the most incredible areas in the entire not United States, but entire world, but especially even in the Valley where you're located. And it's just, I would say, the quality of the fruit, the quality of the wines is undeniable. And you should be so proud and just stick with quality and keep going after it. I just think it's you have such an opportunity, whether it's you, your family, all of you together. Yeah, it's awesome.
Very kind of you.
And I don't know if the ship was listing and needed righted, but do you feel like you've got it heading in the right direction now?
I do.
You got the winemaker that you want, the viticulturalist that you want.
We had the winemakers between Bernard and Carmel were all exceptional winemakers. I had a chance to work with one of them. He's a fantastic winemaker. He's now the head winemaker at Groth. The thing that needed the most course correcting was getting back to making Clos du Val wines.
Yeah.
And I believe that so, wholeheartedly, that as a wine house, as a wine brand, your identity is so much tied to what it is that you actually are sharing in the glass.
Right.
And Bernard brought such a clear identity to the wine. And over time, when you don't hold that so sacred, eventually it starts leaking out.
Right.
And we were making beautiful wines. They just weren't in my family's mind and in Bernard's mind, they weren't Clos du Val wines. So we had to get back to that. And that, I do think we're back on track.
Well, we've had the Sauv Blanc. Maybe we should try the.
Let's move on.
The reds, if
Let's
you
move
will.
on.
All right. So our Napa Cabernet Sauvignon. So this was the same wine, obviously, a few decades later from the Judgment of Paris. Again, blended expression. So Cabernet Sauvignon, supported with Malbec, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdot.
So
classic Bordeaux blend.
Classic Bordeaux blend. And I'd say the beginning, the first varietals that were planted would have been Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc. And then in the mid 90s, with the redevelopment, Bernard added Petit Verdot. And then 2017 and 2018, we added Malbec and Carmenere to the property.
How many acres under vine do you have at Clos du Val?
So we have 120 acres in Stag's Leap,
Okay.
under vine. 20 acres is the home site, the freehold that my grandparents purchased in 72.
Okay, wow.
Or in 71. The same year they entered a long-term lease, which was at that time a 21-year lease with the neighboring vineyard, so adjacent.
Okay.
We've renewed that again, and now renewed it for a third year. So it's become basically a 55-year relationship with the same family, which is also very special. And then in 2015, we took on a property in Yountville. So if you guys know the valley and how it's cut up by these sub-appellations, and that property we planted Cabernet Sauvignon, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and then we have Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon.
Okay.
So that's where this Sauvignon Blanc comes from. And for the Cabernet, it's a combination of those two vineyard sites. And then we do work with, right now it's 5 other vineyard site grower sites in the valley, kind of within what I call our little neighborhood outside of just those two AVAs, to stay consistent with our style objective. And that's for really to balance long-term. If you're thinking, I try to think about this business in 30-year increments. And so in the fullness of time, we believe that this is a wine that can achieve a volume threshold that's going to exceed our vineyard capacity.
Right.
And we want to have high conviction in the quality story behind what goes outside of that. And so I'd rather get those relationships early. And so what we've been doing is we've been selling fruit from our vineyard while we've been building conviction around other sites, so that as this program grows, we just absorb more of our program rather than constantly looking for other stuff.
What do we got here?
So
Napa Cab.
This is a Napa.
Let's see.
Oh, this is nice.
Let's see. Well, while we're talking, let's get this in our nose.
All right, 36 years old. We're going back to Colorado. You're undergrad. You skiing a lot. Definitely weren't drinking wine. Or were you? When did you start really drinking wine?
I imagine you grew up with it on the table, though.
You probably grew up with it, but really,
my most vivid memory of my first encounter with wine. So it was would have been in the mid 90s. So I think I was about 9.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother's a year older than me, so he was 10, maybe a little. Let's say 10 and 11. And Bernard and my grandfather had been working on a project in the south of France in the Languedoc region. They'd started a winery there, and they had been there'd been some wine festival in Paris, and they had invited some people back to my grandparents' house for a lunch. And then after the lunch, the long table gets set up with glasses and bottles of wine. And my brother and I were not invited into the room, but the door was kind of cracked open. So we were kind of leaning in and being like, what are these guys doing? And they're going around, they're tasting, they're spitting, and people are writing notes. And there's probably like 20 different wines and glasses.
Right.
And at some point, my grandfather sees us and he just kind of waves us over. And so we come in and gives us each a glass. And he says, okay, boys, no swallowing, but you're going to sip, you're going to smell, and you're going to write down what you see.
Wow.
And then you're going to spit. And I don't know, we were probably in there for about 30 minutes. And then my mom comes in the room and it was not a good ending. So it was very vivid memory. She was not, well, yeah. I mean, she calmed down after a while, but at first, you see 10-year-old at purple lip. Right. But that was
sounds very Drops of God. Have you watched that?
Oh, come on.
I have not yet.
It's so good. It's so good. You have to watch it. Yeah.
I've been told that I need to watch that.
Yeah, it's good. I can't get him to watch it either. Yeah. So
okay, so that's when you were first introduced to it. Now you go through college.
I was more of a beer drinker in college, but
beer, then maybe on to, I don't know, I went beer to probably.
He's too young for Zimas.
But I did, I will say as a college student, I did always have a case, whether it was in my dorm or.
That's cool.
And fortunately, at the time it was Safeway, and there were a couple other more, just wine shops that carried Clos du Val. So I could always, grab a bottle.
Did your buds at college think, man, this is pretty cool. He owns a winery.
Yeah, no. I wasn't the owner. It was my grandfather.
But still, it's the same thing.
Absolutely. So it was, wine was something that has always, I think, been, as you said, on the table.
Yeah.
So I've always had an appreciation. My parents were good about, as we were late teenagers, having a glass of wine at dinner was something that they thought was an important sort of life lesson.
Yeah.
And that certainly carried.
How many stories have you heard about the judgment over your life?
Honestly, I wish more.
How many that nobody knows?
So I think one of the ones, and he'll probably be upset that I share this, is
okay.
Bernard wasn't. He remembers Stephen coming to the winery, knocking on the door, and he spent like an afternoon with Bernard, and he left with some wine, and Bernard's, what a pleasant guy, very knowledgeable, pleasant guy. And then a couple months went by, and then he got a letter, and he said, "Hey, do you mind? I'm putting together this event. Do you mind sending a few bottles of wine? I've got a couple other wineries that are going to be doing the same, and it'd be great if we could get it all in one shipment." And Bernard said, "Sure." That was kind of it.
Just didn't seem like anything at the time.
And just shipped him a couple bottles.
Right.
And then he didn't really think anything of it. And then it wasn't until after the fact in the newspaper when he gets a phone call being like, did you, and Bernard's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So it was, for him, it was after the fact that it became.
Well, what's interesting is we had Tom Matthews, who was the editor for Wine Spectator for, let's say, 26 years, was with him for 33. And he was saying that, it was after the Judgment of Paris when he started working for Wine Spectator. But he said it could have been a tree that fell in the woods and no one heard it, right? It was George Tabor was a writer for Time magazine and happened to have just maybe a couple of paragraphs about it. And from there, the legend kind of grew. And the scores were much closer probably than we know.
Right.
And according to Tom, the French wanted to tear up the cards, but George saw the scores.
Oh, they wanted to rescore. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the story, because it was told by George Tabor, is why Napa was put on the map. If he had never been there, if they had just tasted the wines,
right,
no one would have ever known.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Crazy.
But,
so Clos du Val is obviously...
thank you, George, right?
Yeah. Thank you, George.
Clos du Val is obviously rooted in the kind of history of Bordeaux, right? So, but you're a Napa cab. How do you balance kind of that old world style? Is that even what the history are you going after? Are you trying to inflect some of the new world?
I do
California?
believe that. I think that you get this from this particular bottle.
Some of that old world style?
I do think you get the old world style. It's a little bit drier than I would say right now. Your typical Napa cab is going to have a little bit more fruit forward.
Right.
I don't know.
A little more balanced. I don't know. Maybe a little more finessed, if you will.
I would say maybe elegance or sexiness of that.
Yeah.
You're drinking.
I don't hate that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
I've had some Napa cabs that are just super punchy, right? Grippy, if you will.
You love that.
I do love that word. Yeah, but
maybe
this one
that fruit.
Just the tannins are there. But
Who's driving?
It's balanced.
Who's driving?
I don't know. I feel like they're both in the front seat. I think the fruit's in the front seat, but the tannins are right here. They're just sometimes the tannins are in the back seat, telling you where to go. Right?
So maybe fruit and sexy. I don't know. Yeah, I know.
I think this is drinking great, but the question is, is there a style you're going after?
So I'm going to use a terminology that we said we would never really use externally, but I think it hopefully frames this. It's, when I think of Clos du Val, to me, it's French California.
Okay.
And, someone like Bernard, he took his foundational understanding of how to make wine.
Oh, no. I've got to go to the next one.
We will move on. Please finish.
Not at all. And he wanted to find a place, but you can't just say that you're going to go somewhere else and make the same wine, because ultimately it's where you're making the wine, where the fruit is grown. That's
sense of place. Yep.
Now, what he was searching for was something that could get him as close to that relationship of what he had learned in Bordeaux. And I think what he found in Napa Valley was, man, the intensity and the concentration of the fruit flavor here is like nothing I've seen in Bordeaux. And so, it's like this broad canvas. Now, with his approach of how do I make an elegant wine that has finesse, that does have complexity, but good freshness, long finish, ageability. Those are the kind of the core tenets of Clos du Val wines. He said, I need to find a way to be able to control this and kind of harness that and not allow it to take over. And so that is really ultimately, I'm looking at the map behind me, is ultimately why he started gravitating further and further south of the valley. Because he said, he was fearful of the heat and it getting out of his own control.
And being counterintuitive than what most people think. The further south you are in the valley, the cooler the climate is because of the influences of the San Pablo Bay and the marine influences.
That's right.
Right.
So I think, what's our objective? Our objective is obviously those tenets of that philosophy. And I think what you get hopefully that kind of, it's got some of the feel of a Bordeaux wine, but you're working with a California canvas. Yeah. And it says that French California.
Yeah. Well, interesting take. Thank you.
Well, let's crank this next one. What do we have here?
All right. So this is Yettalil. And Yettalil is a new wine for Clos du Val. 2019 was our first vintage, so this is our third vintage. We made no wines in 2020.
Yeah.
Because of
the fires.
In 2020. And really the objective of this wine, and this is actually in thanks to Bernard, is to bring their vision to fruition. And why I say that, when I first got out to California in at the end of 2018, I'd spent a lot of time that year traveling back and forth from the East Coast. I had a lot of time with Bernard, spent a lot of time with him, first convincing him to work with us, and which he was thrilled to do. And when you have that and those hours, late at night, opening bottles of wine together, sharing stories. Mm-hmm. One of the questions I asked him a few times is, what do you wish you had done differently? And he was thoughtful about it, and he said, when we ultimately selected the site and then brought to life this vision that your grandparents had, the objective was always to make a blended wine. That's what we knew. That's what we were trying to bring, and that's why we planted the 3 varietals that we did. But the more research that we did about the U.S. wine market at that time in the early 70s, the categories from fine wine to premium to table wine, et cetera, fine wine was varietal driven. As you got lower in quality tier and price tier, it became blends. And so we became fearful that coming out with a blend in the fine wine category may not land with the consumer in America. So we made a Cabernet Sauvignon.
But all the great Bordeaux's are blends.
Right. And so he said we always blended to the max we could, but he always had to have 75% Cabernet Sauvignon. Looking back on it, Love, he said, there were so many vintages where we probably could have made a better wine if we didn't have that constraint.
Mm-hmm. If you didn't have to go 75%.
So if you're going to think about the future, go make that wine, because that's really what Clos du Val is. So that became Yettalil.
Okay.
And Yettalil is cool history behind the name as well. With, is it Henrietta?
Henrietta is my grandmother.
But was this a nickname?
Nickname, yes.
Okay.
So she's of Danish origin. Her mother's from Denmark. Also was Henrietta. Her mom went by Jette by her friends. And so when my grandfather met her, all of her family and friends called her Little Jette in Danish, which is Yettalil. So
wow. Yeah, cool history.
When we were deciding on do we give this wine a name or not, we felt that we should to create some separation and differentiation. We'd always made a reserve Cabernet, and it didn't really feel like that was, I don't know, it just felt kind of stale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she's someone who has always pushed my grandfather to think, he has as well, but, generational mindset. Mm-hmm. And so the opportunity that I have, my siblings and cousins have, is really thanks to her and my grandfather, but really her saying, John, see what the next generation will do. Yeah. And I think that's a powerful thing. I think that's something that is really important in wine. This is not a game that happens in quarterly or yearly increments.
Right.
This is a decades journey. And if you can think in generational steps, mm-hmm. you're probably going to make more good decisions than bad decisions in the long run.
And forgive me, is Henrietta still?
She's still alive. She's 95.
All right, so what's she think?
I think she enjoys it. I mean, she generally, I think that's the wine she serves when people comes to see her. So I think she has. And fortunately, my grandfather was able to see the first vintage before he passed.
Oh, well, okay.
He enjoyed it too.
That's great.
Well, I think that you, and again, this is just a couple of guys in Florida with 3 restaurants that are focused on wines from Sonoma and Napa. I will tell you, I think you have a incredible opportunity this year because of the 50th and the spotlight that are going to be on some of these wines because of the Judgment of Paris. And maybe it's just because we're involved in it, and maybe 95% of the population doesn't know a fucking thing about the Judgment of Paris. The point is to be able to go out in the market and say, 50 years ago, this wine was at the Judgment of Paris. One of 6 chosen from Napa Valley. Yeah. 10 years later, we were recreation of it, #1 wine. To be able to go out there and that marketing aspect of it. Recently had somebody that called me about coming to our wine dinner that we're having.
Okay.
Guy named Jeff, I think Jeff Combs. In any event, said he was just out in Napa and went to Stag's Leap Vineyard, then went to Chateau Montelena, and their 2023 vintage, they're having a little 50th anniversary designation for the Judgment. So I think from a marketing perspective, this has to be a time to get Clos du Val back where people are talking about it as one of the top producers in the valley. So I think you're back.
The history is rich.
I can see, you know that.
The history is rich.
Yeah, I think I obviously would love things to go faster on the, from a commercial standpoint.
Yeah.
And you have to stop every once and you just reiterate the importance of patience.
And
look, I'm so glad that you stopped in and that you were able to sit down with us and talk to us about your family's business, the fact that you're taking it over, and it gives me confidence to be able to sell this in our restaurant.
We'll take these stories back to our teams.
Stories back 100%.
Because stories sell wine.
Yeah.
They do.
There's a lot of great juice coming out of Sonoma and Napa.
I know there's so
But
much.
if you've got the story and the background and the
right.
You know what? I just sat down with Olav. We talked about his wine and his history and his family. Let me share this with you.
Right.
Like the stories are what make this beverage magical.
We're going to sell so.
Should write that.
You should. You know how much?
You
know how much Clos du Val we're going to sell in the next 2 weeks?
A ton.
Oh my!
A ton.
A billion listeners. A billion listeners. They don't come into the restaurant.
That's a lie. We're going to be able to swing by and say hi when we're out there?
I think that we are. We're working that out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know a guy.
Do you?
As of an hour ago.
Yeah. Right.
I know a guy. Thank you.
Nikki is working on that for us. We are going to go out and visit. But I think, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming and sharing your story, the history of Clos du Val. The wines are drinking fantastic. For me, that was kind of a classic blend, Bordeaux blend. This is, once you drink them, and I went back and revisited, this actually is a little bit fruitier.
Okay.
Even though at first it was dry.
And I think they opened up in the glass a little bit.
That too. Yeah, that too. But just awesome. Thank you so much. And I think it gives me comfort knowing that Clos du Val hopefully is not selling to Constellation or Gallo, and you're going to take care of running this for a little while.
That's our objective.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Oh, thanks so much.
Taste toast together, my friend.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, my friend.
Congrats on 100.
Thank you.